Today's episode is brought to you by the Daily Gardener Friday newsletter. You can subscribe to the newsletter over at the Daily Gardener. Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, a podcast about garden history and literature. I'm Jennifer Ebling, and today is March 10th. Today in garden history, we celebrate the birthday of Georg Wilhelm Steller, who was born on this day, March 10th, in 1709. Georg was a German botanist, zoologist, physician, and explorer who worked in Russia and is considered a pioneer of Alaskan natural history. In 1739, Georg joined the Danish cartographer and explorer Vitus Bering's second Kamchatka expedition that was sponsored by Russia. When their ship, the St. Peter, landed in Alaska, Georg had to beg for time to explore Kayak Island. Vitus Bering granted him just 10 hours, making Georg one of the first foreigners to step foot on Alaskan soil. Georg Steller is remembered for his naturalist work on this voyage, and he's also remembered in the names of so many North American plants and animals, including the Steller's jay, which is related to the American blue jay, and the Steller's sea lion. During the expedition, Georg tried to persuade the crew to eat green leaves and berries that he gathered on land in order to combat the scurvy that was becoming an epidemic on the ship. But the officers of the expedition pooh-poohed his suggestions on this matter, and when only a dozen men were left standing to run the ship, the St. Peter was shipwrecked on an island where Vitus Bering and half the men died of scurvy. Georg and his assistant never suffered from scurvy, and they nursed the survivors back to health. The island that they were stranded on until a new ship could be fashioned from salvaged parts in 1742 is now called Bering Island. And it was on this day, March 10th, in 1719, that the French architect and garden designer Jean-Baptiste Alexander Blond died. Jean-Baptiste was the chief architect of St. Petersburg. In his book, The Theory and Practice of Gardening, which was written in 1712, Jean-Baptiste advised, "A garden should always look bigger than it really is." And today is the birthday of the German poet and writer Joseph Freiherr von Eichendorff, who was born on this day, March 10th, in 1788. In his romantic novella, Memoir of a Good-for-Nothing, written in 1826, a miller's son forges his own path and becomes a palace gardener in Vienna. Once there, he falls in love with the daughter of a duke, and when he happily learns that she is adopted, the two can be together without violating her royal status. Joseph wove his love of nature into all of his work. Thomas Mann wrote that Good-for-Nothing had both the purity of the folk song and the fairy tale. Here's an excerpt. "At last the gardener arrived, mumbling something about rascals and country bumpkins, and took me out into the park, giving me a lengthy lecture as he did so. I was instructed to be sober and industrious, and not to wander about aimlessly or waste my time in unproductive activities. If I heeded this counsel, he said, I might in time achieve something. He gave me much other useful and well-phrased advice too, but I have since forgotten almost all of it." And today we also celebrate the birthday of the American poet, writer, and librarian Donna Coolbrith, who was born on this day, March 10th, in 1841. For her beautiful poetry, Ina became known as the sweet singer of California. She was a beloved member of the San Francisco literary community, and she became the first California poet laureate and the first poet laureate of any American state. It was Ina Coolbrith who wrote, "How many songs, O summer wind, how many songs you know of fair, sweet things in your wanderings as over the earth you go." It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, The Botanist's Daughter by Kate Nunn. This book came out in 2019, and this is a fiction book, and I love the cover. The author, Rosanna Lay, says this about The Botanist's Daughter: "The whole book is a delight, perfect reading whilst sipping a G&T in a beautiful garden somewhere in the sun. A buried secret." So add this to your summer reading list. This book is about two women in two different centuries. In the present day, Anna is growing her new gardening business and renovating her late grandmother's house. But when she discovers botanical art, an old diary, and a handful of seeds hidden in a wall, the mystery will take her to Kew Gardens and then on to Cornwall in search of the truth. The other woman is Elizabeth Trebithnik, and her story is set in 1886. And Elizabeth is determined to continue her father's work as a plant explorer, and she's looking for a specific rare plant that had eluded her dad. This book is a 400-page botanical mystery that answers this question: can a mysterious flower somehow connect Anna and Elizabeth? You can get a copy of The Botanist's Daughter by Kate Nunn and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $4. But I say hurry because used copies are going to go quickly at that price. All right, we're going to wrap things up today with a Botanic Spark featuring the San Juan Botanical Garden, because it was on this day, March 10th in 1971, that the garden was inaugurated. The San Juan Botanical Garden is part of the University of Puerto Rico. Now, as you might imagine, the San Juan Botanical Garden features many themed exhibits of tropical and subtropical plants, as well as a collection of modern sculptures. Special features of the garden include a garden of brightly colored lobster claws, or heliconias, that are native to the tropical Americas. There's also a bamboo chapel in a feathery bamboo forest, an orchid garden, and a Monet garden, inspired by Monet's aquatic garden with its water lilies. There's also a palmedum featuring over 125 species of palms, and an aquatic garden that includes papyrus and red ceiling wax palms. In the aftermath of deadly hurricanes over the past decade, the San Juan Botanical Garden has developed a strategy to address plant loss from future storms. An iCloud for the garden. The garden has joined with other botanic gardens, and they've started backing up each other's collections. And in terms of a Botanic Spark, this practice of backing up treasured specimens is something you can do with your own garden. So consider partnering with a fellow gardener or a neighbor and set up your own garden iCloud. Well, that's it for today's show. Just remember that you have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for listeners of the show. The next time you're over at Facebook, just search for Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend and then request to join. And if you'd like more of The Daily Gardener, you can subscribe to the newsletter over at thedailygardener.org. And don't forget that you can also show your support for the show by using the Buy Me a Coffee link over at the website or in today's show notes. This is Jennifer Ebling. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener, And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. Hi there, Daily Gardeners. I just wanted to let you know that I will be speaking at the Friends of the State Botanical Garden of Georgia annual meeting in Athens, Georgia on March 25th at 7 p.m. And there's a reception before this event at 6:30. Anyway, this is their 50th anniversary, and I'll be giving a presentation on some of the women who influenced botanical illustration and who created marvelous botanical porcelain art, which is now truly a dying art. In fact, in the United States, there are no longer any porcelain studios in operation. All of the beam studios have closed. And so these pieces are only going to become more scarce and more precious over time. Now, in Athens, there is a brand new porcelain and decorative arts museum at the Center for Art and Nature, and it's right next to the Visitor Center at the Botanical Garden of Georgia. This porcelain and decorative arts museum houses the collection of Dean Day Sanders, a passionate gardener and art collector with an extensive concentration in botanical porcelain. And so this museum is special because it's the first of its kind to integrate decorative arts in a garden setting to celebrate nature. Now, if you decide that you'd like to be at this event, all you need to do is check today's show notes or the Facebook group, the Daily Gardener community over at Facebook, or the newsletter, because I'll put links to this event in all of those places. And if you do register, let me know, because it would be fun to have some Daily Gardeners in the audience. I'm going to have a little bit of free time, and it would be great to connect with you. We could tour the gardens together, have a little meet and greet, grab a coffee, etc. Anyway, it would be great to get to see you there. We'll celebrate these wonderful botanical artists, see the beautiful botanical porcelain, and get a chance to hang out. What could be better? So one more time, the meeting is on March 25th on a Friday at 7 p.m. Hope to see you there.